So, to make your batch of sourdough starter, mixing equal amounts of flour and water. And you start off with whole wheat flour and non-chlorinated water. So, equal amounts by weight of both. Okay, so I've got 45 grams of flour. Okay, and I've got 45 grams of water. So, I'm just going to mix the two of these together. I don't know, it seems to me it should be a little more moist than that, but we're going to go with the instructions. Okay. Now, I've only made a small amount, so I'm not going to discard half of this when it goes to its first feeding. I'm just going to measure exactly how much I have here, and we will feed the same amount and then start to discard after that. Anyway, so I'm just going to put it in a clean jar. I get a paper towel and get a lid on this. I don't want to seal it tight, so I'm just going to get an elastic band. Okay, I found an elastic band, so I'm just going to place that over the top, and I'm going to leave this sit out in a warm spot overnight and see what happens. I had a lot of difficulty creating a starter the first time, and I don't know if it'll be any worse this time around.
Okay, maybe it's better than I thought. Okay, so now I'm going to discard some, and let's see, we will start off with well, that's 110. Might be a bit much. I think I'll remove some. $92. Gonna remove a bit more. $78. Let's see if we can do 80 grams. Okay, there we have it, 80 grams. The rest of this I will toss because it's still not yet starter. And I'm going to zero out my measurement and let me just actually pour it out someplace else. Here, I could use my coffee cup before I pour coffee into it. Okay, so 80 grams of not hot, not cold water. 78. 79. Oh, that says 80. Okay, 80 grams of water. And we want 80 grams of flour. So 1 part of each equal by weight. 39, 58, 57, 75, 80. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to mix this all up and then put it in a clean jar. Now I will put this back in the oven, but with no light on. You want it to be warm, but you don't want it to cook. So clean jar. There we go. Perfect. Okay, clean jar. You don't want to seal this airtight, so you just want to put something that will allow some air to permeate, but nothing else. Okay, so it's all ready to go back into a warm spot, and I've chosen the oven without a light. Okay. Okay, day 3 of my sourdough starter, and I am getting a small amount of bubbles. Nothing that nothing to get too excited about, but there does seem to be some life. Okay, so I'm gonna stir this up. And we're going to do, once again, 3 parts, equal by weight. So whatever amount of starter that I add into this jar, I'll put in equal amounts of water and flour. And I've zeroed it out, and here we go. It's a lot more runny than it was before. I'm going to try and stick with 80. There we go. 80 grams. And just because I don't want to put too much water, I'm going to measure this out separately. 79, close enough. And now I'm going to put 80 grams of my all-purpose flour. There we go. And this is 81, and that's, well, let's see if we can take this drop away. $80. We're good to go. Okay, so this will now be put into my jar. Good. Okay, and this is day 3. Mix it all up. And I'm going to use a clean spatula to clean the edges. Okay, so there, it's ready now. Day 3. Once again, just cover it up and put it in a warm spot. Your kitchen counter should be adequate if it's warm, and if it's not, find a warmer spot. Okay, this is still day 3, and finally, it's in the evening actually, and I'm finally seeing signs of life. As you can see, there are bubbles there at the top. There's not many of them, but there are bubbles. It is starting to develop, so I'm going to cover this up again and leave it overnight.
and we'll feed it tomorrow. So yes, it's alive. This is day 3, and I'm happy to see these results. So tomorrow we will feed this again and continue the feeding until day 7. Okay, so we're on day 4, and I do have life, as I showed you yesterday. There are bubbles in here. There's not many of them, but there are certainly bubbles. So that means that the sourdough starter is alive, and that's the main thing that you look for. Now, from now on, for the next few days, we just feed, and I've actually just left this on the counter. I've gone through stages where I've put it in the oven and left the light on for a little while. And you don't want to leave the light on the whole time it's in there because it will get too warm. So now I just leave it on the counter, and I'm finding that I'm having more success getting life into it by leaving it on the... It's warm enough there. So we are going to once again feeding it in the way I feed it, and I see that there are a few different ways, but the way I've fed this is that I put equal amounts of water, flour, and starter. Okay, so I'm ready here, so I'm going to I'm going to stir this all up. Okay, so I'm going to go for approximately 80 grams. And I've got 82, which is good enough. And the water's a little trickier. I don't want to put too much water in there. So I'm going to do it separately. $81. And now my flour. And I just use my all-purpose flour. You can use whatever flour you have on hand, but I prefer to use all-purpose flour here. So 80 grams. I've got 50. 70, 69, 80 grams. Okay, so you do this for day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. By day 7, you should have a fairly live culture. Okay, it's waiting for the bubbles the first time, and once you have that, then it's just a matter of feeding. Now, this is my feeding schedule. So you do this up until day 7, until you have a very live culture. It should look like this. This is bubbles all on the side. This was halfway through. I put it out last night, or should I say I fed a small amount last night, and it was filled half the jar. This is at its peak, ready to use, and that's what your sourdough starter should look like when you are going to use it to make bread or anything else. Should be full of bubbles, doubled in size, and that's ready. Okay, so if you've only got a few bubbles yet, it still has yet to develop. Like I said, day 4, your sourdough starter will not have been fully developed yet. Okay, that's mixed up good. And once again, I just put this in a clean jar. Now, feeding your starter. If you're going to make bread every day,
you leave your starter on the counter and you feed it every day. If you're only going to make bread once a week, or even less than that, you keep it in the refrigerator, and that slows down the growth. So you only have to feed it once a week. And I can tell you for a fact that I've forgotten it longer than that, but once you have a healthy starter, it should come back with a few feedings, even if you have forgotten it for longer than a week or two. Okay, so here we are. We're ready to cover this up, and this time I just used a bit of parchment paper. Anything loose covering will work. And I've just left this on the counter. So that should double in size. When it's doubled in size, then I'll feed it again. And do this right through to day 7 until I know I've got a nice, healthy, strong sourdough starter that looks like this. After that, you decide whether you want to just feed it once a week or whether you want to make bread every day. And you could try both for a while. Okay, so this is how I made sourdough starter to begin with. Now, don't fret if you try it the first time and it doesn't work. The very first time I did it, it failed. The second time, it failed. It's not foolproof, but you will get it eventually. It can take longer than 3 days to develop bubbles. They should develop in the second day, but that doesn't mean that they will. The conditions have to be right. Now, you can also you can start with regular flour. You don't need whole wheat flour. That's supposed to give it a bit of a kickstart. So I would definitely, if you want to make your own starter, experiment. Use whatever flour you have on hand, and it just takes a few minutes every day. And yeah, once you start to see life, you go, yay, it's alive. But yeah, it's not hard to do. It's just a little bit frustrating when it doesn't work. And I know that there's probably better videos out there that show you how to do this and give you more detailed instructions, but this is just what I did, and to let you know that if you fail the first time, no big deal. You can still try it again and succeed. Now, definitely I have starter that I started a couple of years back, and I use that all the time. And yeah, I'll probably have to use this one up for something once it's matured. Okay, this is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. I hope you enjoyed this little video on how I make sourdough starter. And like I said, I'm sure that there are better videos out there. They give you a lot more detail, but this is my way of just showing you how I did it. Okay, have a good day.